Building relationships, building trust, taking care of people, getting people to work together through a worthy goal creates great business results. As opposed to, I'm going to try to pay them less, I'm going to try to work them more, I'm going to try to get them to do more, and they're just not sensitive to people's needs. It usually turns out bad business results.
Hi, I'm Chris Malone, and I'll be your host for today's discussion. Thank you for joining us. I'd like to start by welcoming our friend, colleague, and program partner, Stephanie Adler-Yuan, to the program. Stephanie is the Vice President of Engagement at Plaintree, a global not-for-profit organization dedicated to humanizing healthcare for everyone through excellence in person-centered care. Welcome, Stephanie. What can you tell us about our guest today?
Thanks so much, Chris. Hi, I'm so glad to be here. And it is absolutely my pleasure to introduce Mark Baiada, Chairman and Founder of BAYADA Home Health Care. Mr. Baiada founded BAYADA Home Health Care in 1975 with the mission to help people have a safe home life with comfort, independence, and dignity. Today, BAYADA has grown from its humble beginnings to become a global leader in home health care, serving clients from hundreds of locations in the US, Germany, India, Ireland, New Zealand, and South Korea. And Mr. Baiada is truly a remarkable person-centered leader and a fantastic guest for us today. In November of 2018, Mr. Baiada distributed $20 million of his personal assets to current and longtime former BAYADA employees as a gift of gratitude for their contributions to the company. Soon after that, he led his company's transition to a nonprofit organization in January of 2019. And this was a move that was unprecedented in the industry and made to preserve the BAYADA mission and core values for generations to come. His journey has been guided by diverse role models, including Benjamin Franklin, Andrew Carnegie, and St. Francis of Assisi. And Mr. Baiada credits his and BAYADA's success to his people-first practice of hiring people who share his vision and supporting them to achieve great things, and also to his family credo, which I love. Think big, work hard, show love. I think we could all take a lesson from that. His contributions to healthcare and nursing have been recognized many times, notably with a Visionary Leader Award from the UMDNJ and now Rutgers School of Nursing in 2012, and his induction into the National Association for Home Care and Hospice Hall of Fame in that same year. He holds an MBA from Rutgers Graduate School of Business and holds honorary degrees from both Drexel and Newman universities. Chris, it's an honor to welcome our distinguished guest. And with that, I will hand it back to you.
Thank you so much, Stephanie. And welcome, Mark.
Thank you, Chris. Thanks for being here. And Stephanie, thank you so much for the kind introduction.
So, Mark, can you start us off by sharing the story of how you decided to start BAYADA Home Health Care and how all that came about?
Certainly. Well, we just celebrated our 50th anniversary in January, Chris. So it goes back to 1974 when I was organizing it. I was a young man, 27 years old. I wanted to start a business helping other people. I didn't have much money, $16,000, but I had a big dream, and I came across the field of home health care. It definitely would help other people. There was a growing need. It was a reproducible model. So it's a service business. So I did my research. I decided to do it, and I opened up brand new in the center of Philadelphia with just me, a new college graduate, Marty, and a half-time nurse with a big dream from a humble sublet office at 14th and basically Broad and Walnut Street in Philadelphia, right in the middle, so we could be easy access to anywhere in the city. And then we just started focusing on responding to our clients' needs, hiring good people and responding to their needs too, because the family has a need, the nurse or the aide has a need, and you're trying to find a place where they can work together so it's therapeutic and beneficial for the client, but also meaningful and worthy work for the employee. So it's all about responsiveness, meeting people's needs, tuning in and listening from the very beginning. And from that platform, we just started opening new locations slowly. It took about 5 years for the second office. I had to get to understand the people needing the care, understanding the people delivering the care, put an efficient operation together to deliver it, because it's a very warm service, but there's some practicalities of it. And we just started growing. Then we started offering new specialties, high-tech pediatrics, Medicare certified services, hospice. And then I wrote it down in the BAYADA Way, which is our mission and values. Really, in 2005, so like 30 years later, it was really a codification of the values we had all along. And so the first one, which is our driving value, compassion. Compassion is empathy in action. You have to see a person's need and feel you're going to do something to help them. And compassion is manifested and acted out through excellence. People do excellent work, and reliability, they show up every day. If you're not excellent or you're not reliable, I don't think you really have compassion. So we would work. Once we make a promise, we keep it. And our mission is simple. It's help people have a safe home life with comfort, independence, and dignity. Our vision is quite large, to help millions of people worldwide. I mean, when I started, home care was an unknown service. It's gradually, people are aware of it, home care and hospice now, but it's still secondary to the healthcare system, hospitals, pharmaceutical companies, and they're the powers in the medical profession, the powers that be. So we're still advocating for the development of home health care. Also, we want to build and maintain a lasting legacy. So we want to create institutions of lasting value in all the communities we serve. So in 100 years, BAYADA will be there, hopefully never needed, but available on short notice, like your fire department. Dial 911, they'll probably be at your house. You don't really want to think about them until you need them, but we want to be that type, because nobody was planning to need a nurse. But when they do, we want to be there with compassionate, excellent, reliable service for them.
Got it. And did you have any prior experience in home health care, or how did you choose, to jump into that? You mentioned it was not a well-known service at that time.
No, I had no experience. I was working in staff position in marketing research. And so here I jump into a business, which is all the people business. I had no experience in hiring, managing, terminating, handling performance problems. But when I came across them, I was all in to take care of them. So it was a difficult learning process, but I didn't want either the clients or the staff to suffer. So I would work extra hard myself. So that's why I did not open the office for the first 5 years. It was my college degree in home health care.
I see. And so it all seems to have worked out pretty well. And so now your son, David, stepped into the role of CEO of BAYADA in 2017. What are your areas of focus now as chairman of the board of BAYADA?
Well, the most important would be as the chairman, because BAYADA has to be true to the BAYADA Way. And the board is independent now, it's mostly independent people. And we hire David to make the BAYADA Way come true for all our clients and our staff around the world. So I'm on all the committees. I'm very active at BAYADA. But separately, I've started two main initiatives. I'm into nursing education now. Just started a nursing school. The first campus is at Cooper Hospital in Camden. A teaching hospital is all in and shares our vision of having more great nurses. Good nurses with better clinical training. My wife is a diploma nurse, and they got tremendous hospital training, but they've gone by the wayside. Nursing education moved to the university. The academics are good. The clinical has kind of dropped off. So we're a hybrid. We're the best of both, best of the clinical, the best of the academics. When the nurses graduate, they'll be able to go right to work at Cooper and be productive, and also attuned to the Cooper culture, which is also similarly based to BAYADA's. Dr. Anthony Mazzarelli, the president, wrote 2 books on the importance of compassion. He's great. So we're aligned in spirit and in practicality.
Yeah, we're big fans of the books Compassionomics and Wonder Drug.
He's great. So he's all in since the beginning. Mm-hmm.
Excellent.
Our goal now is to, over the long run, when I'm done, is have 100 hospitals across the country that share the same vision as Cooper.
Now, you mentioned the BAYADA Way of providing home health care, and I was wondering if you could share a few examples of how BAYADA Way enables the delivery of care that is different or better from what might be offered by other providers.
I think the first, from the top and all the way down to the organization, we communicate, we're aligned on our belief. Our clients come first. We're there to support our client, and our employees are our greatest asset. So, and we hire against this, and we tell new clients this. So it's a code of conduct, a behavior that everybody can expect, and we're all on the same page. And performance reviews are based on this. So our conversation once a week, the offices have called key action of the week meetings, where they'll pick a key action. There's 15 of them in here, like Key action: be friendly, let our smiles be seen and felt. A simple thing, but who wants a grumpy nurse? Right. So we're there for our clients. Compassion is being there for someone else. So we talk about that in meetings every week. So this is pretty much very active in our hiring, management, performance review, and day-to-day work.
And did the BAYADA Way come about through kind of a research-oriented approach? You had mentioned you had a background in market research and really studied and learned the home healthcare business. Was it you developed, through that type of investigation, or was it really more a reflection of your own personal values and beliefs more so than some investigative process?
That's a great question, Chris. So it's going around the early 2000s. I'm there. I'm saying, I bet we better write down what we stand for, because we've been in business for 35 years. It was more of an oral tradition.
Mm-hmm.
So everything was oral. We shared these same things. So there was a man we were taking care of his son, Jack, who lived in the Philadelphia suburbs, who had spinal muscular dystrophy. And he's a practicing psychologist, and he had written some articles about what it means to be the parent of a child. I met with Al Friedman. I say, Al, can you help me write down what we stand for? So we started meeting. First, we said, well, we'll write it together. You represent the family and the caregiver. I represent the caregivers, and we'll go together. We soon realized this is bigger than us. Really, this message, these values have to come from the hearts of the people we serve and the people who do the work. So we tried to give up our own egos, and we went on, especially Al, focus groups, all with clients, children, clients' parents, clients themselves, office staff, nurses in the field, aides, in small groups. And then we had many, many focus groups asking questions: what values are in place when home health care is delivered at the highest level? And we actually would give them pages of 50 different values, and they would vote. Then we had overnight retreats where we had field and office together. Then we ended up doing a survey of every client and every employee to reinforce we're on the right track. Then Al wrote it down. This is a wallet-sized version of it.
Mm-hmm.
And then we went back out again to make sure the words were clear to all parties, because you can give a sentence and it can be interpreted two different ways. And so we wanted to get it as simple as possible going forward. So it was a listening. And right now I'm in the midst of a listening tour to go back out, and I'm talking to at least 50 offices and hundreds of people about, does this still resonate? What clicks with you? Is there any disconnect anywhere? To kind of see, because we share this. It's a shared feeling. And it's kind of like a set of behaviors. It's also an energy field of hope and healing. So it was based on, I say yes, it was based on research, hearing from the hearts of the people that do this.
Yeah, well, I think you gave a great description in the sense that, the essence of research is listening, right?
Yes.
Listening and interpreting and codifying, things. And so that's a really interesting story that you had a belief, you had been in business for quite a long time, and then went to your own people and your own clients to have them tell, you what was most important. Now, you mentioned BAYADA education, and I'm curious, what are your priorities for BAYADA education, and what are some of the things that have been accomplished recently in that area?
Okay, well, we on our second class at Cooper, and we're looking for extraordinary clinical education. But a lot of young people and nurses, they don't know how to talk to the patients. They're taught to do the task, but not to form a relationship. So part of our training is to take that to a higher level. So we establish a relationship first with you, Chris, and then we tell you what the procedure or what we're going to go. Some people walk in and treat you. You could be a bag of flour, and so we're trying to codify and teach the nursing students, and Cooper's aligned with us too, because they want it for their own staff, and then make them feel comfortable and create the Cooper BAYADA spirit, which really embodies patient-centered care.
Yeah, you make a good point, and something that we're seeing quite a bit as well is that, especially in the last 5 to 10 years, with the development of all kinds of digital technology, mobile devices, and all of that stuff, we're getting more and more calls to help organizations teach their people how to form relationships. I think things that you and I in our generation may have grown up and picked up kind of organically is not happening in the same way because we're spending so much time on devices. And so I think, the notion that we need to help people to know how to build relationships first, and then they can apply the technical expertise is really insightful.
Yeah, we're doing it a little bit differently because first when we started, you're suggesting to people how they could be more effective if they did this behavior, that, or took this attitude. We're creating it as a model. This is our model. We're going to teach you how to do and expect you then to follow. And so it's not a like to, it's a have to.
You mentioned earlier that one of Bayada's core beliefs is kind of building relationships and working together is critical to success as a community of caregivers. How do you go about fostering and supporting those relationships? You mentioned how you're teaching in Bayada education, but in the business, how do you kind of support and enable those relationships between, the clients and the caregivers?
Well, it's the clients and the caregivers, but it's also the management staff and the caregivers.
I see.
So because the managers are determine who's doing it, the nature of the relationships. So the interesting part is the nurses themselves are almost picked this up. That they self-selected into a patient-centered career. They are actually frustrated with most hospitals because they're just treating them like factors of production. So it's way easy the nurses are like, what's new about the BAYADA Way? This is how I am. It's now having them have more power in the care delivery because there's two other groups. As I've heard one person say, well, in the hospital, there's three groups. The nurses, they're there, they're relating to the patients, they're trying to do their best. There's the doctors, they're Mr. Fix-It, right? They're Mr. Fix-It. So they'll come in and they're like, my car isn't running, get it going for me. And then there's administration. They're the guy in the suits that are worried about the budget and the 5-year plans. And so they've been sometimes in healthcare, nurses are feeling a little alienated. So actually we're empowering them and supporting them because now we're management and nurses all on the same page.
And in your experience, are the relationships with clients important to caregivers as well? Do those impact either their effectiveness or even their personal well-being? I wonder, I think we all intuitively know that feeling a relationship with a caregiver matters to patients, but I wonder, perhaps is it important to caregivers as well?
From my experience, that's why they went into nursing. They want a relationship helping people. And so they get satisfaction out of having a connection and helping move forward. And when they're in the hospital, just going from room to room without any really connection, it's kind of, they get burned out. So that's why they picked it. That's what they need. That's the kind of people they are. They connect and want to help.
That's what we're seeing as well, that relationship provides the emotional fuel that keeps them going every day and is what they brought them to healthcare in the first place. So that's good to hear.
Yeah. I find a lot of healthcare managers, insurance companies are the worst and others. They're not tuned in to the human part of it. Yeah.
Right.
All they do is listen to the nurses.
Mm-hmm. Now, in 2019, BAYADA Home Health Care made a transition to a nonprofit organization. I'm wondering, what were your motivations for that change, and how has it changed the economics of home health care for the company, if at all, since then?
A great question. So we wrote down the BAYADA Way. I read it and say, well, I don't run the company the BAYADA Way does. I always had like a picture on my head. This is my boss now. So I read it and I said, well, how does this for my work? And it said, well, there's one thing in there. We want to build and maintain a lasting legacy. Lasting legacy, that really has to do a lot about ownership, doesn't it? So I said, well, I owned it lock, stock, and barrel from the very beginning. And I said, well, what am I going to do, sell it? They won't care. They won't care about the BAYADA Way. They'll turn into the same people we're talking about. I could turn it over to the kids. So my wife and I started meeting with the children, and we realized they're okay. This generation is okay. What about the grandchildren, great-grandchildren? And we studied multi-generational family-owned companies. They usually fall apart. Disinterest, want to milk the company, conflict, incompetence, a lot of things. So they said, let's go nonprofit. Most of the institutions around that are left, a lot of companies that started in the 1800s aren't here. A lot of universities are. The fire department. So nonprofit institutions tend to last longer.
That's
So
interesting.
yeah, so we decided to go nonprofit. So it meant giving the company away, but I'm more interested in creating something of value than the money. How much money can you spend? Right? I had saved money from my working career, and so I had enough to live on. And so I went to bed, I signed the paper, went to bed at 2 o'clock in the morning. The company went from me owning it to a nonprofit I had just created, which owns it now. So it's a 501(c)(3) nonprofit, sort of much like a hospital system or a university.
So economically, does that mean that Bayada doesn't need to turn a profit, or doesn't need to have a margin? Or does that mean that those returns are more reinvested? Has it changed the way that the business runs in any way?
Yeah, hope not, because on one hand, we want to be run like a business, so everything we do is efficiently, everything is there for the good of the clients and support of our staff. There's no extras. I'm like the Japanese. I don't want to wait. I don't like waste of any time or money. I just want it. If you need my help, I want to be there for you without any fluff, right? But we have to run a surplus because we are a self-funded social entrepreneurship.
I see.
And all we can do is run the same surplus that other similar type organizations do. And that way we can provide new services, open new locations.
Terrific. Terrific.
So it's the best. It isn't one or the other. It's the best of both. Mission driven, all there for the public, but run with efficiency of a private business. So we get the best of both. So it's an alloy. It isn't one or the other. It's both, which makes it double hard.
I'll bet. Now, here you are. You've been in this business for 50 years. You've seen what's unfolded, not only in home healthcare, but the broader healthcare system overall. And I'm wondering, given your experience, to what extent do you think for-profit healthcare provider organizations either help or hinder the delivery of compassionate, reliable, and affordable healthcare? What's your perspective? There are those, who have very strong beliefs in one direction or the other on that. I'm wondering what your observations have been and what your thoughts are on the fact that we have a healthcare system with for-profit organizations, which is not, common in other countries.
Yes, it depends on who's running it. I hate to say it. Like when I entered, I was competing against mostly nonprofits, and I said, "Oh my God, they're good." I found that they didn't work as hard or as fast or as smart, so they were letting the clients down in a very odd way. They weren't improving their services and responding quickly. But then in our field, there's a lot of private equity coming in. I wouldn't say they're nice guys. They're just doing it to squeeze out as much money as possible, which is also wrong. One, you have laziness, one, you have greed. And so we're trying to be kind and efficient at the same time. But both sides have their negatives. But there's a lot of wonderful for-profit businesses. Somebody started it, they're honest, they're hardworking, they're really devoted to their client, like we deal in business every day. You're a private business. And there's some wonderful, high efficient, successful not-for-profits. So it's really the thing that they're going to hold themselves to a high standard on all measures.
Got it. So it sounds like the takeaway is that it's more about the way they're operated than about their tax status, that you can do either one of those well or poorly, independent of which status you have.
Yeah. So I'm with you. I took a chance long run. I would rather tend to being a little slow as a nonprofit than a little greedy as a for-profit. I took money out of the mix for the management.
Got it. What advice can you offer to other healthcare leaders that may be seeking to apply the principles of the Bayada Way in their organization? Are there any rules of thumb or watch outs that you would suggest to them?
They should be intentional. Well, first of all, as Anthony Mesereau says it by compassion, building relationship, building trust, taking care of people, getting people to work together through a worthy goal creates great business results, as opposed to, oh, I'm going to try to pay them less. I'm going to try to work them more. I'm going to try to get them to do more. I'm going to cut here and cut there. And they're just not sensitive to people's needs. It usually turns out bad business results.
Yeah, we have seen the same. The more that you focus on fostering relationships and enabling people to get what they want in life, that you end up with better business. And the contrary is just what you've said, is if you focus on the bottom line, thinking that you're going to get more bottom line, in the medium and long term, you actually get less bottom line because you can count the cost savings, but you're not counting the cost of the change in loyalty, the change of engagement, the change of commitment, and so forth. It's all of those unmeasured costs that you're not realizing. And those in the end are the enablers of the outcomes. not the outcomes themselves.
Yeah. One very important thing is I just was reinforced is to find a common purpose. I was at Wegmans, the Wegmans store, which has been fabulously successful. On the back of their business card, it says, ordinary people working toward a worthy goal can accomplish great things.
Mm-hmm.
Paraphrase, but it's the worthy goal, something we share in common that we want to create to make the society better, that we can commit our work to. Once people are aligned on a common goal, to relate, everything kind of comes along. When they're across purposes, so the leaders have to get a common goal. That's the leadership job. Find a common goal that brings everybody together.
Excellent. We do have a question from Kareem Ambani. He's asking, what tools can an organization use to educate their clientele regarding the BAYADA Way, or how do you do it? And it makes me wonder, even building on his question, is the BAYADA Way something that listeners could find online or that we could share with them?
It is online, so you just go to the BAYADA.com and you can find a copy of it. Interesting enough, when we have our weekly key actions of the week, we just pick a key action and we talk about it. We just share it. Mm-hmm. People, by sharing that, they're becoming intentional. They're becoming intentional about it. So every company should have a common mission and purpose statement, which everybody agrees upon. They should have values. There's a book called Managing by Values by Dr. Michael O'Connor we use about the importance of values, how values drive companies and create better successes. Managing by Values by Dr. Michael O'Connor, which we used, which is a great book. So you just have to take the time to do it. It's kind of like this, is it good to have exercise? Will that make you better? Yes, right? It's just taking the time to do it. You'll get better results if you focus on purpose and values and talk
very helpful
regularly. Every coach knows that. There's a lot of time off the court that they're working that team to get them to a higher level.
All right, so we will make sure we include a link to the BAYADA Way in our program notes. And in addition, we'll include a connection to that book you just mentioned, Managing by Values by Michael O'Connor. That way we can get that out to folks. So I do have now one final question for you. And that is, do you have a favorite quote you can share? And if so, why is it your favorite quote?
My favorite quote, Chris and everyone, is one that comes from the BAYADA Way itself. And under each value, compassion, excellence, and reliability, we have 5 key actions. And the one that resonates most with me is under compassion. And the key result of compassion is our clients and their families feel cared for and supported. So that's what we're trying to create. They feel cared for and supported. So mine, the third key action I like is be respectful. The fourth. Listen closely, show empathy, and respond to the needs of others. So just listen closely, and that means total listening, right? Show empathy. You understand, and then respond. That's like the secret of Business 101.
That's right. And I guess in its essence there, it's about putting the interest of the other person before your own in the immediate term, right? It's putting the other person first, right? Listening and then responding and trying to help and so forth. In some ways, that selflessness, I think we find, is not require us to recklessly disregard our own self-interest. But in fact, it's a form of enlightened self-interest that by doing so, we return, far more to ourselves in the medium and long term, not only emotionally, but also in terms of the support and relationships we have with others.
Yeah. And people who are caregivers and do this naturally, they're showing love and they get great fulfillment and satisfaction from doing that. They are fuller because they're doing it. And if they can't do it, they get frustrated.
Absolutely. Well, Mark, this has been a really terrific conversation. I can't thank you enough for taking the time to share your story and insight and perspective with us. To our listeners today, thank you for joining us as well. We hope you found this discussion informative and inspiring, as I have. And be sure to join us again. We will be talking with Dr. Redonda Miller, president of the Johns Hopkins Hospital. And it is sure to be another inspiring discussion. So thanks very much, everyone, and have a terrific rest of your day.
Thank you, Chris. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Mark.
Bye-bye.